ton of excitement around the Berging, a ton of excitement around this Arizona Cardinals team and its draft class. We're expected to talk to Nick Rollis on Wednesday and the Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing tomorrow. But to provide some more insight on a couple of the Arizona Cardinals' newest players from the University of Illinois, we bring on offensive coordinator Barry Lunney Jr. Coach, how we doing, man? It's got to be an exciting time for the program over there to get two of your players to the next level and playing for an organization like the Cards.
Well, it is. It's exciting for all of our young guys. We had 4 guys drafted, and then it's pretty unique when you get 2 from the same team drafted, to the same organization. So it's a unique situation for us to follow and root for and have vested interest in what's going on with the Cardinals. So we're excited for those 2 guys.
Coach, when the Cardinals made back-to-back picks from the University of Illinois, the first thing I thought of was, man, I remember watching the Fighting Illini, especially 2 years ago, when Chase Brown's, all Big Ten, they're going for, he's 1,600 yards on the ground. And so it doesn't surprise me that they would tap into this well of really quality offensive line prospects. Let's start with Isaiah Adams. Now, he's played some tackle. Cardinals are likely going to use him at guard. Where do you feel like his best football is ahead of him? Which position in particular?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt it's guard. And we knew that, and he knows that, and I think everybody in football knows that. We just had to have him a tackle. We got in a situation that we just we just really needed him, and that's really what it came down to. And we knew athletically he could hold up out there for us to be able to operate. And really, once we moved him the latter half of the year, that move really helped level us out and brought some balance to us. And we played our best ball offensively down the stretch. And a large part of it was because Isaiah was unselfish enough and didn't even flinch, guys. I mean, just said, Coach, I'll do whatever I need to do. And we felt good that it wouldn't cost him long term. And it might have cost him a little bit, but I think everybody on that level knew what his potential was and where his home was going to be. And certainly I think that's going to end up being a guard.
Well, can you tell us what you think his strengths are going to be at the next level, playing that position that he's probably more geared towards playing?
Well, I think foot speed, and I think that's obviously one of the things that's always my experience as being a college coordinator is the guys that have translated success to the next level, in particular up front, is, there's got to be a certain level of foot speed. And as an offensive guard, you have to be able to climb and be able to try to, track linebackers that obviously can run really well. And so I think he's a really good athlete that has good foot speed. And then he's just got a really good football IQ. He learns very well. He's played left and right. He's played both left and right guard. He's played tackle. He snapped for us and practiced some, so his football intelligence is really, really through the roof as well. And he's got an incredible amount of grit. I mean, he's just really he's the whole package. And I think the Cardinals are getting an outstanding player.
The Cardinals have struggled historically, Coach, with line of scrimmage play on both sides of the ball. And when I think of Brett Bielema coach teams, it's the opposite of that. You think about when Coach was at Wisconsin and now laying the infrastructure with the Fighting Illini. Talk to me about a little bit about your philosophy as an offensive coordinator with these players. Do you have a run-first mentality? Is opposing your will on opposing players? Because here in the desert for so long, it's been East and West football, not necessarily North and South. And when we see players of this caliber drafted within the top 100, it's pretty evident what the Cardinals are trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, obviously you're spot on about just our philosophy in the program. And 2 years ago, I was impressed, by the way, with the stats you threw out from 2 years ago. Obviously you guys very well informed. You are doing a great job in that regard. But we ran the ball really effectively. We had one of the nation's leading runners, and we felt like last 2 years ago we kind of epitomized what we want to be about. And then we kind of took a step backward this year in that regard. We threw the ball a lot better than we ran it, and we didn't have the same makeup up front, and we lost Chase to the draft, and we were really injured at running back. So this year was a little bit of an anomaly about kind of just our identity and what we want to be. We're trying to get back to that, but certainly Isaiah has been trained in that way. When we recruited him from junior college and brought him in, he adapted to that mentality very quickly and takes a great deal of pride in being a physical player that when the chips are down, you can run behind him.
With Isaiah, it helps fortify the offensive line for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And so does, and supplements it is a run blocking tight end. And it really looks like what they have in Tip Reiman coming over in the third round as well. What can you tell us about Tip?
Oh, Tip, he's a phenomenal human. I mean, him and his wife, Maddie, they're just great people. And he's got a real unique story. I was actually on Twitter today at the airport killing some time, and I saw for the first time the picture of him when he came to Illinois as a walk-on, and I was reading about the story. I wasn't even privy to some of that information because it was well before I got to Illinois, but just to go from walk-on to being told, hey, we're not going to offer you a scholarship. We're going to give you a chance to walk on and to watch his development. But it makes sense now knowing who Tip is, right? How committed he is to being the best person he can be, the best football player, the best husband, whatever he puts his mind to, he's super committed to it. And his diet, his routine. I mean, this guy thinks and acts and trains like a pro already. And he's not even one yet, or he is now, but he's just now beginning that stage of his career. And I know he's got a lot to learn in that regard. Don't get me wrong in that, but I think he's got a great foundation for that because of what his makeup is. But just a consummate team player, consummate tough guy, and obviously has really taken off physically here even the last year.
Yeah, his athletic scores this offseason weren't just good. They were historically great. And I think it certainly spearheaded him being a top 100 pick. I mean, I think the Cardinals and the fan base initially envisioned him as a blocking tight end opposite Trey McBride. But do you foresee at any point his ability maybe to become an H-back, certainly a red zone target? Like, talk to me specifically about some of these skills that maybe we didn't always see during the games, but certainly in practice over the course of the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think, obviously, even some of the testing, well, I knew he was really athletic, but I think some of the testing numbers and the way he prepped for the training and the way he popped, I think even surprised, me in regards to, and not that it was really far off, but he really surpassed what I thought maybe the wheelhouse that he would be in. Right. And so I think that's another testament to his work ethic and the way he took his training and coaching and prep. And I coached tight ends for Coach Bielema for 8 years or for 5 years for coach at Arkansas. And so I coached some guys that, when I coached Hunter Henry when he was there at Arkansas, and that was kind of really the best comparison that I could make,
Wow.
and what Tip was as far as his body type. And he even surpassed Hunter's numbers. But yeah, I think, like if you look at him, he probably, to some degree, even reflecting on as the offensive coordinator, probably underutilized in what he brings to the table from a passing game standpoint. Our strength of our team was probably our wide receivers last year. We had one drafted. We had one sign a free agent the first night. We have one next year. It's going to get drafted. And so he was surrounded by 3 really good wide receivers that we leaned on a lot for the passing, relied on Tip more for the running game. But when we created opportunities for him, he always took advantage of those. And I think he's just going to keep getting better and better in that world, in the passing game world, of his understanding and spatial awareness. I just saw it continue to get better and better each of the 2 years I was there. And it's certainly something I think that he can provide at that level. But I think we all know, too, initially his niche is going to be getting in and controlling that C gap and using his physicality and his God-given, power to be able to do that. And he will certainly put everything he can into doing that.
Any memories of him utilizing that 6'5", 270-pound frame in the C gap, or anything that he did that you can remember that was just freakish with his skill set?
Well, the big challenge in that area is against like the 4-down structure is you get a defensive end that's like playing a 6-eye or inside shade of the tight end, right? And they have a half a gap leverage on you. And I just saw him repeatedly gain that leverage with his foot speed and then his physicality to push that leverage vertically and controlled the C gap quite a bit for us. Wasn't perfect. That's a hard thing to do in the Big Ten when you're going against defensive ends that tackles have a challenge going against, And so I do remember, several plays. I don't know if I can name one of them. I know against Michigan 2 years ago, it was a really physical game, and it came down in the fourth quarter. I mean, they kicked the field goal to beat us late. But just physically, I thought we as a whole really went toe-to-toe with Michigan that day. And Tip kind of epitomized that on some of his blocking and just really got after him all day long. And that was probably a day where I saw it after, in hindsight, watching the film. I was like, okay, this guy, this was a really physical day by him. But he's the same guy every day. Like whether it's run drill or at Michigan in practice, he's the same intensity and the same physicality. And I think that's what he's put himself in the position he's in.
You know, I want to get your expectation on both players here entering the rookie season, because the Cardinals have some openings up front on their offensive line. I also look at, Isaiah and Tip's age. I mean, I think Isaiah is going to be 24 this summer. Tip's going to be 23. These are guys I think physically, you would attest to, that are ready for the NFL grind, the rigors, physically. Do you foresee them being able to make an impact as rookies this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, you would think, what would be the limitations for a guy that gets drafted in that realm not having a chance to make an impact? It would be, okay, well, is there some physical limitations there as far as do they have to get stronger? Or sure, they do to some degree, but no, they're full grown, right? And they're strong and they're tough. And then would there be some learning challenges there? Like, is this a guy that takes a while to learn a system? And I can tell you for a fact, neither one of those guys is that guy, and obviously them being drafted in the slots that they're being drafted in would probably also, indicate that as well, with all the homework that's done for the organizations when they decide to draft somebody that early. So both of those guys, I don't see any, I personally, in my limited experience of dealing with guys, excuse me, my phone slipped there.
You're good.
If going to that level, I don't think there would be any limitations. I think they'll hit the ground running and be able to provide what the Cardinals are hoping they're going to provide.
A lot of us learned about Tip during the coverage of the NFL Combine, and the big story there was his answer to, as far as him not being a believer in birds, right? He's got this conspiracy theory about birds. Is it just the type of his personality? Should we take that as he's just having some fun, or what should we do as far as going forward with Tip?
I think he's having fun, and I know he's having fun, and he's a great young man that you're not getting anything like that. I think that was a fun moment for him. Who knows what the context was, right? But I know he's a great human. He's a great teammate, and I think the franchise in the locker room and the fans are going to love and appreciate who he is and how he represents them.
The offensive coordinator for the Fighting Illini in the Big Ten, Coach Barry Lunney Jr. We'll let him go back on the recruiting trail in hopes to find the next Isaiah Adams and Tip Reiman. Coach, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll keep you posted. Would love to check in during the rookie year.
That's great, guys. Yeah, you guys are doing great work. I appreciate you guys having me on for sure.